We are in Shmuel Aleph, and we're chapter 8, verse 18. It says, and you cried out, you will cry out on that day, Lifnei Malkechem, from before your king, Asher Bechartem Lachem, that you chose for yourselves, V'lo Ya'aneh Hashem Etchem B'yom Hahu, and Hashem will not answer you on that day. So, okay, and so obviously they're not happy. That's what Shmuel is telling the people, that you won't be happy with your king because he's going to take all your possessions away. He's going to have the authority to anyway. No, he's not actually going to do it. And so the Malbim says, and you will cry out, but then you will not be able to break off his yoke. Because he will come down upon you via his servants and his army of hosts. And then only then will you cry to Hashem because of you being a pain in the heart. So lo yaneh, in other words, you'll be distressed. But Hashem will not answer you. Because you chose him from your own free choice. So Hashem is not going to interfere because, again, you have turned away from God. Okay. And so it happens next. V'yema'anu ha'am l'shmo b'kol Shmuel. But the people refused to listen to the voice of Shmuel. V'yomru, and they said, "Lo, no." But or because if, however you want to translate that, but we want a king over us. We want that king. We're not going to listen to you. So the Malbim says, "V'imanu Shmuel." Whoops. Okay, right. So Shmuel writes al yedei kain sheshuvim yidatam v'lo. Shmuel, by telling him all this, really wanted the people to return, in other words, change their mind and not desire the king. After all, if I'm being told that the king can take my home, my possessions, my children, everything, and I won't be saved from that, so then why would I want that sort of enslavement, right? If I'm told that the government can take whatever they want from me and I have no choice at that point, so why would I choose that? Okay? And so he thought that was what happened, but Vayomer lo, and they said, "Lo, Ratzli malo kidvarcha." It's not like what you say, Shmuel. Sheyeh Moshe la'aretz bilti nichna l'data Torah. We can't imagine that the king is going to be ignoring the Torah that much. Shezeh lo yikra b'shem melech, ra b'shem Moshe. That, if a person is going to act like that, he's not called a king, but rather he's called a ruler. And aretz ki gadar hamelech hu nivchar min ha'am, because the point of calling him a king is that's a person chosen from the nation. V'geder hamoshel who rode behem b'chazaka, as compared to a ruler which forces himself upon the people. So apparently, by the Torah's definition, a melech is elected, and a moshel is one who does it by force. Let me just finish the thing, and then you ask. And he will not be a ruler, but rather he'll be a king. We don't want to be subjugated to him as slaves. We want him to be meshubah to us. And to conduct us according to the law and statutes of the Torah. Yeah.
Okay, the commentary of Mayam Loaz says the people rejected Shmuel's advice. Despite all the hardships the king would impose on them, they said it was still worthwhile to appoint a king, for he would spare them from even greater hardships from their enemies. What in the world could they have been thinking? What does that mean, spare them from greater hardships?
War. He's
going with God at this point was leading them through their prophets. Is not that a good enough guarantee against war?
No, because they still have wars.
Well, I mean, if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing.
they weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's the point. So if I'm going to have a king who's going to run the government, and again, he's an elected official, so according to what the Malbim is saying, making the distinction between a ruler and a king, so he's going to be elected by the people, okay, and he'll be meshubad to the people. He'll be a public servant, right? Yeah, public servant, and if he's a public servant, so he has to worry about what we're doing. At the same time, in other words, he wants to keep his position. At the same time, he will have a standing army, which won't necessarily be my children. It'll be a standing army. But if my kids want to go in, I guess they could go in. But they would. In other words, I wouldn't have to take them out during harvest time or planting time. So I'm paying my taxes to you to get the job done. I mean, it's really what we all do. What the people are asking for and how the people are asking for the king was really a very normal thing for us. We all live like that. We don't want to worry about if the garbage is going to be picked up. We don't want to worry about the trains are running on time. We don't want to worry about those things. We want somebody else to do it. So we are willing to cede some of our power to that organization to make sure it's done. So the same thing here. So there, and by the way, to rely upon God means I have to do everything right. Because once not only me, but I have to ensure you are doing everything right. That's much harder. I can take care of myself, but I can't take care of you two. I don't know what you two are doing. You tell me you're Shomer Shabbos. How do I know? I take your word for it, right? So, but what happens if you're breaking Shabbos? And now you're breaking Shabbos, or you're doing something else. You ate a cheeseburger, okay? And now Hashem says, you ate a cheeseburger, and so now all the Jewish people are going to be affected. Now, I'm not saying that's how it works, but imagine we have a rule of Kol Yisrael Rebim. We're all responsible for one another. We're all guarantors for the other. Even worse, by the way, if you look at it like that.
How did it ever work then, in the first place? No one could ever guarantee.
Because what we had was good. We had good leaders like Moshe Rabbeinu, Yoshua, and the other prophets, the other judges, who could rein the people in every once in a while. But it didn't last. That was the problem. It didn't last. So these people are looking for something that is going to be like every other nation, where the government is taking care of certain things. I don't have to worry about that. They don't necessarily want to live a godly life. That's clear. Okay, and so they want all the dangers removed. Again, if I have a standing army, what do we say today, right? Grab your guns. If as long as I have my guns, you're not going to attack me. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what people say, and that's what the whole gun lobby is, one way or the other, right? Because if I have my guns, then I'm stopping the how do they say it? The government. They want to make the government as weak as possible, so that everybody has a gun. So that way the government can't. If they would confiscate our guns, it would make us the weakest. Okay, or to use Reagan back in the 80s, where he said the only way to fight off the enemy is to have a strong army. That's all it is, right? So, and we all buy into it. We all spend our money on that. Whether or not it's true, I really don't understand the politics of it, but whether or not it's true, that's what we all think. And instead of relying upon God, we're not willing to lay down. We're not willing to bet on that because we don't know what's going on, and there's no leader that is telling us and we're not listening to leaders. You have a couple of different things going on. People didn't listen to all the leaders either, unless you're like a Moses. And even Moses, he had Korach, he had all these rebellions. I mean, think about that. So we're going to say now? No, I'll let you speak.
No, if the whole point is we're not supposed to be like the other nations, and it's in the Torah, at least once that I know of,
right?
Then how did they think that God would favor them for?
Because it says in Deuteronomy that when you come to the nation, when you come to the land and you want a king, this is what you have to appoint. You're going to ask for a king like all the other. It even says like all the other nations. So we certainly have a dictum saying that whether or not we have to or we can is the question. In other words, is it a mitzvah to appoint a king, or is it just if you come to this point and you want to appoint a king, this is what the requirements are. That's a question. That's always a question. But nonetheless, that's what we're holding now. And we're holding at a place where the Philistines are at our borders and nipping at our feet and all these things. And we just won. We just pushed everybody back. And we didn't just win. We won. Shmuel's getting older. His kids aren't following his ways, which means that they're not, by the way, again, just look at the commentaries, it doesn't mean they were doing anything wrong per se. They were staying home. They weren't being circuit judges. They weren't going around. So they weren't judging everybody like Shmuel was. It's the old thing about the former Rav versus the present Rav. The former Rav would go to people's homes and he would go to their restaurants and he would see everybody where they are. People loved the Rav. Well, they got rid of him because he retired, whatever the case is going to be, and so they get a new rabbi and they give him all the instructions as to what he should do. Well, the new rabbi isn't as outgoing, social, whatever you want to call that, and does different things because the community, again, if you look at any rabbinic, and I would assume the same thing for all religions, but I'm picking on the rabbis, or the congregations actually, for any rabbinic person looking for, it's one who's great with the kids, who knows how to deal with elders, who is going to be able to bury everybody, who's going to be at everybody's bris. In other words, your life is ours. And we expect you to be everything. I went into a job where the person was disappointed that I didn't have a red convertible, picked his kids up from his house and brought them up for the next 18 years. He told me I wanted that. So I wanted the rabbi to come in with a red Cadillac that my kids, a convertible, that my kids, and great in basketball, great in all these sports, and Talmud Chacham, and all these things. Grab my kids, bring them to his house, feed them, do everything, bring them up 18, drop them off at my door. That's what I wanted. And you know what? He was serious. He was 100%. All his kids went off the derech. All the kids went off the derech. They're never really on the derech, probably, but no, except for one. One stayed on, went to Eretz Yisrael. I assume that person's on the derech. No. They loved them, but they didn't know how to do it themselves. So that's really what the problem was. He didn't know how to do it himself, and it just wasn't a great system. But you have people who feel like that. And so, again, the former Rav was doing that sort of mishigas. And when you do that, I'm not saying he didn't have the Cadillac DeVille or the convertible, but he had that sort of apparently he had, well, actually two rebbeim before me, had that sort of mystique. Okay, so you have, I can't have somebody else, but my point is you can't always get a Moshe Rabbeinu or a Aaron Cohen, and each one of them has their problems, by the way. Each one of them loses certain people. And so here they're saying, give us a king. We don't want, by the way, they did want a king to judge them, which is what God got angry about. What do you mean a king to judge you? That's not the king's job to judge you. You have a shofet. Let him judge you. Separation of powers here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? So you can't, it's true. I mean, nothing's new under the sun. I'm telling you. It's all from Torah here. Democracy, our democracy is totally based on Torah. And that's why, but they're not based on Torah, which is why it's such a mess. But the United States is the system, separation of powers, legislative, blah, blah, blah. It's all based upon this. It's amazing if people just think about that. What the Malbim is describing is the United States of America, where the king is elected, the king, blah, blah, blah. The only thing is that, and that's only constitutional, that was added, that we have term limits on the president. And that people want term limits on the rest of the government. My thing of term limits, by the way, is just don't vote for them. That's the end of the term. Just vote them out of office. It's simple to do. Okay. But again, not to get into the politics, but that is really what's going on here. So if I get a person to judge, to rule over me and to run the system, Hashem had no problem with that. When he said, Shavteinu, to judge us, I'm your judge. I, God, am your judge. I'm also your king, but I'm your judge. But I've allowed you to have a king. That really is the difference that the Malbim is pointing out. Because they could just say, Put us a king. Give us a king like all the other nations. No problem. Done. No problem. But you said a king to judge us, according to the Malbim. So you see, you're with Me'am Lo'ez, he's combining a whole bunch of different people, putting it together, nice and neat, and put him out there. And it's not a bad parish. It's a beautiful parish. It's a beautiful explanation. But he's also hitting something else that they were afraid of. What was it? What he described?
You just said that having a king would spare them from greater hardships.
Greater hardships. Again, getting together. You had to make alliances constantly when people are on your borders. Who's going to help me? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? It's similar to, why do people, if you think about it, why do people want social programs in America or any place? Why do they want social programs? Because they're sick and tired of shelling out money. That's it. Somebody comes to my door and they say, I'm collecting for this person who wants to get married. I'm collecting for this one who is sick. I'm collecting for this. Oh, guys, here's the general fund. Leave me alone. Apply to the general fund. I've funded that. Go for it. Why do you have trusts in the world? Why do you have all these things? You have people who have mega bucks. Why aren't they giving out the money one by one? First of all, it's a full-time job. But besides that, why are they giving to somebody else? Why are there requirements? Because we don't want to deal with it. We want a government. And that's, again, that's just part of the system. We don't want to be bothered by that. So if I have a government who's shelling out, who's taking care of the poor, who's taking care of this, who's taking care of the army, and this and that, I don't have to do it. You're Meshubat to me, though. You, Mr. Government, are Meshubat to me. I'm your employer. Okay, again, that falls apart. It always falls apart. But that's what they were asking for, which is why they said to Shmuel, it can't happen. What you're describing can't happen because we're not, I don't know how to keep saying Meshubat is, we don't owe the government owes us. That's what they were saying. And he couldn't convince them to no, it's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to get a king. The king is going to take your kids. The king is going to take you have servants, the king will take your servants. And because he doesn't want to use his servants. You have horses, the king will take your horses because he doesn't want to use his horses. What do they call it? Commandeer? Commandeer. He's going to commandeer your stuff. And they didn't want to believe that because they said, how could that be? Can't be. We won't allow that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The first recorded instance of it can't happen here.
Right.
I've mentioned this many times that the great Greek philosophers all were from Anatolia, so they were in contact with Jews.
Right.
And Aristotle, that man has this conflict of freedom and security, and he's always trying to get a quick fix for that problem, for that conflict. And so he has a democracy. But the democracy is always arguing, we hear this every day, but they can't get anything done.
Right.
I want an easy fix. I want these things settled and taken care of. So then they elect a king. The king becomes abusive, and the people start to rebel. Mm-hmm. So then you get a tyrant. He has to get rid of all liberty in order to rule these unruly people.
Right.
Then the unruly people depose him, have a revolution. It's absolute chaos. And so then they want democracy so that they have the best of both. But they're still not satisfied. It just keeps going around in this cycle.
Correct.
And you wonder if he didn't read this. Didn't read right out of this to get that idea.
Well, I think it's just logical, right? It's just what it is. I mean, that's how it happens, and that's why we see what we see today.
We had such a good thing going though. Before.
No, this thing is still going. Again, it's not all we have to do is do tshuva, but even with that tshuva, we have to again find somebody who is going to be our shofet. I mean, that's really what it is. Nobody can run the system. It's a very big system.
Is there anyone universally recognized on the level of Reb Moshe or any of that today? I never hear anybody talking about.
There is nobody today. There's nobody today that is recognized.
He's come to the end of that chain, huh?
No, he didn't. No, what happened was that the person who's going, or the group of people who are going to do that, first of all, they have to learn how to use the internet, but that would be a big thing. Because that's how you're going to be known.
How did
The
others
internet's
get
how
to be
everybody's known.
known?
What?
I said, how did the others get to be known?
Right.
They didn't
Slow
They were known by their books. First of all, they were known after the fact. Many of them. Rev Moshe was one of the few people. Rev Kanievsky. You have some of the people who are known to the Orthodox. Okay, ask a Reformed Jew who Rev Moshe is, and they don't know who you're talking about. So when you say,
Really?
well, why should they? They have nothing to do with him.
That's true.
Okay, so by the way, if you ask Orthodox Jews about Yaffe, they won't know who Yaffe is either. He's a Reform guy. He's their guru or whatever. So you have to know all the who knows who the conservative is today. Nobody knows. I don't even know the conservative. Know who the conservative guy is, but I'm sure there are conservative people in the think tank. There used to be one. I forget his name, but it's supposed to be one of a big gedalim of their place. But nonetheless, you look askance at that. But that's my point. We don't know these people because, one, they're not accessing social media, so we don't know of them. And by the way, if they did access social media, we would either know how stupid they are or how intelligent they are, which is one of the reasons you really don't want to get onto social media. Okay, but you have that problem that nobody knows who the other guys are. So in order to establish yourself as somebody that's acknowledged, again, you have to learn how to use this, how to use sound bites, how to do all these things, get on the news media, and so on and so forth. And then, but by the time you've done that, you're no longer a Talmud Chacham, now you're just a media hound. So it's very hard.
Didn't the pre-internet gedalim become known by the books that they wrote?
Again, the people who were known by the books were only known to their circles. If they weren't part of that circle, they wouldn't know them. So Rev Moshe Feinstein was known by many in the Orthodox world, but not everybody agreed with him. Rabbi Avadi Yosef was known by many people in the Orthodox world. Again, not everybody ruled by him. But if you see their books and you read what they wrote, they're just amazing. Okay? But you have to be able to go through that Hebrew. You have to understand what's going on. They only wrote in Hebrew. So you have to get that. But again, there's a lot of people out there who are Gedolim. But we just don't appreciate them because we don't study. Either they don't write books, which is also a problem sometimes. They don't write their stuff down. It's just word of mouth. Yeah. And, or they just have no interest to be known.
So who does the person go to for,
Who does which person go to?
a person in a community will go to the community rabbi for a decision on.
Hardly ever. The person in the community will not go to the community rabbi unless he was brought up with the community rabbi. Most people in the community go to their rabbi that they learned in yeshiva with.
Yeah, but I didn't learn in yeshiva.
So then you're
I
going
would
to go
look
to
at
your
it
community
from
rabbi,
I
right?
would look at it a different perspective.
Okay.
But then if the question's of such a nature that no real resolution, like the final decider, like Reb Moshe was a lot of times the
right.
last resort, what he said was.
Okay.
So there's no one today.
Of course there are. You have in Chicago, Reb First.
Okay, so
And
he's considered to be.
He's
on
one of
the
those big
level.
guys. In New York, you'd have Rabbi Schechter, Rabbi Bleich. I'll put Schechter above everybody at that point. But you have Rev. And by the way, some people who are on the internet will say, "What are you talking about? I hold this." But in the YU world, I think everybody will acknowledge that Rabbi Schechter, Rabbi Willig is the top. And Bleich, I'm not sure where they hold him, but he writes all these books, so he's certainly up there too. But I'm not sure if he's known as a person who's going to give a decision on life and death. So I'm not sure. But you have Gedolim in your circles, but you have to trust them. In the modern, what's it called, the open Orthodox world, so you're going to have Avi Weiss. And he's not going to give life and death. He's going to give to somebody else. His compendium of rabbis. I don't think he'll judge that. I think he'll go to, he has 3 people he talks to. So I'm pretty sure he goes to that board and says, again, this is life and death. We're not talking about whether or not women can have an aliyah. That's ridiculous, Shaila. Okay, so then you can do what you want. But if it's somebody who's really life and death, a Rabbi Weiss, or Avi Weiss, has tremendous amount of compassion. I mean, they say that people who know him, I don't know him, people who know him say he's mamash tzaddik. Tzaddik. But, okay, and so now, is he going to make that decision? Absolutely not. I can't believe he would. He wouldn't want that responsibility. That's the other thing. Who wants responsibility for life and death? Do I pull the plug or don't I pull the plug? Again, you have Rav First who will do that very begrudgingly, but nobody wants to pull that plug. But he will, he would do that. He would be able to give that question. You could ask him the question. And others. Yeah, Kanievsky, again, who would be able to answer those questions. You have to know who to ask. You have to know, or the Rav you're going to ask to know that there's people above him. Okay? But there are people. Definitely people. But again, are they acknowledged by everybody? No. They all like it, I guess. They would all be up there. But let's put it this way. If any of the rabbis you just mentioned said, pull the plug, nobody's going to second guess them. Let's put that on the table. Nobody's going to say you're a Russia, that you're wicked. No, they would say you went through the Indian, okay, and that's it. And they'll default because they're not going to be out there and make a decision. Leave it to the big guys. That's what they always say. Yeah, go out somebody else. I don't want to. That's a lack of leadership. When you push off. Now, again, a guy like me, if I would answer it, I'd be an arrogant person. And I'm being very gentle with that, to say that. To say, pull the plug or don't pull the plug. Well, who am I? I don't have the breadth of knowledge that the people I just mentioned do. They can chord like this. They know the Shulchan Aruch backwards and forwards. Okay, so they can make those decisions. In order to make, Rav Shechter said, it's a very beautiful thing. He said, he's talking to all the rabbis. He wasn't talking to students, talking to rabbis. And he said, in order for you to make a decision, any decision, you have to know Shas. Again, do I accept that about a person comes to me on Chol Hamoed and says, do I have to put tefillin on or not? I don't know Shas. I open up the Shulchan Aruch, say, this is what it says, leave me alone. Okay, it's on Shas. But I understand what he was saying. What he's saying was, if you're making decisions for life and death or anything like that, you don't just shoot from the hip. You have to know, and you have to know all the intricacies of Jewish law. So how many people know that? And why don't we know that? There'll be another question. Why did we let that fall? In the world of computers, why do we let that fall?
It seems like when the last generation of the pre-World War II
Right.
rabbis left us, that really kind of left off.
Again, you have rabbis today who can do it. What we're not training each other to do is to make those decisions, mainly because we don't have to. By the way, we don't have to make those decisions. In other words, we for the most part are homiletics today, so we don't have to make those decisions. And again, I don't have to worry about my chicken being kosher. OU says it is, fine. Okay, so I don't have to learn that. I don't have to worry about so many other things. If I wanted, how many people are really engaged in Jewish law when it comes to business? In other words, most people run business. They make up to whatever they're going to do, and that's it. They're really not going to Jewish courts for that because Jewish courts aren't as strong. Well, they're not strong, period, as the secular courts. Secular courts get the job done. The Jewish courts can't do anything. So you have to both be willing to have binding arbitration, so on and so forth. And then I have to know what the laws are, and I could probably get a better deal in the American courts than I can in the Jewish courts. So why would I want to put myself in that situation? I guess unless I have 2 Orthodox people who are willing to go. But the other question is, why are you having a fight? It's a simple thing. Either you're lying or he's lying. Or both of you are lying. If somebody's lying here, figure it out. What do you come to us for? What do you have to go to court for? What do you have to spend money for? Figure it out. You're partners. You're not partners. Whatever. Figure it out. You're going to come to a compromise. Nobody's going to get one or the other, right? Doesn't work like that. We usually compromise and everything. Okay, fine. So what I'm saying is that's where you're going with this. So when I get my king, again, is he going to be elected? Is it going to be like Aristotle's, like your view of Aristotle? Will we start with everybody's running system to democracy, where we can't make a decision to the king, to the what do you call him? The tyrant, and back to square one. Okay. So what do you do? Yeah. Okay, so let's go on. And it says like this. So we are in 20. And we, that's also interesting, use the emphasis, will be like all the other goyim, all the other nations, ushfatanu, malkenu, and our king will judge us. He will go up before us, v'nilcham et milchamotenu, and will fight our battles. Okay, so that's so make sure about something. It's all passive, right? That is 20. Whoops. Yeah. Okay, it's all passive. Okay. That's okay. See, people watching on the camera say, "Well, that's what happened." Okay. So the Malm says, "Vayinu uba'arub divreihem." So we're going to explain the words. Again, give us a king to judge us like all the nations. It doesn't mean that we want him to judge us like all the other nations, like all the other kings according to their desire or whims. Rather, we just want a king like all the other nations. No, if they have a king, we want a king. By the way, the expression goes, as the Protestants go, so do the Jews. Okay? Why did the people of America bring in rabbis? They didn't have rabbis. It was the Wild West of Judaism here. Why did people bring in rabbis? Because they saw that the non-Jews had priests, and that was what gave them respectability. So, okay, we need respectability. We have to hire somebody. Fine. So they get in their rabbi, and if you look at the old garb of the rabbis, they looked like the ministers. Okay, and the same thing with the speech, which is the homily, the speech. Same thing. Used to be a half hour or more from the pulpit. Okay, then why did the rabbi sit facing the congregation instead of the normal way, facing to this very day you have rabbis facing Orthodox, facing the congregation instead of facing the Aron. Why? That's what the Protestants did. So it's just an amazing thing. As the Goyim go, so do we. And so that's what they're saying. We don't want all the trappings of the king. We're not interested in that. But just as they have a king, we want a king. Because that will make it easier for us. Fine. That's what it says. Rather, we should have a king over us. And we will be like the nations. Which means that we'll be equal to them. We'll have a king like them. We'll have respectability. Okay. As it says, I will put upon myself a king like all the nations. And so now we're obligated to order this in two manners. One, our king will judge us. As according to the laws of the Torah, kipo Doesn't say that he will judge us, period, but he has to judge us according to the laws of the Torah. And number 2, he will go up before us and will fight our wars. Shelachem neged tzar, he will fight opposite the enemies. V'daiku lemo echemoteno, they're saying our wars. Shelo yeh ka'aretz, it won't be like this a strong guy asher yichas milchamot elav, that they're going to say it's his war, is our war. And he would make that war because he wants to rule over people and for the kavod and for the lands to conquer them, so they would be called by his name. Really, he's going to fight for common defense, right? He's going to protect us. And those which he conquers will belong to us. See, the United States. That's the point. So they're building here. Shezeh Geder HaMelech Hanatun Tachadat Amishpat Shekol Magmato Hu Hatzlachad Ha'am, and this comes from the definition of the king that will be given under that is operating under the laws of the Torah, and all of that will be the success of the people of Taken and Yenehem, Ben Medina, Ben Neged, Tzar Tzorer, and he'll fix up all these matters, whether it's between the state or between the enemy that's oppressing us. Yesh Lefarish, and that's how you're explaining Venilcham, and he will fight. Anachnu nilchamnu milchamotenu ratz lemor sheyikra hamilchama al shem ha'am. Namely, the wars will be called by the war of the people who have been in a call. So that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for him to have glory. This is my war. This is MacArthur's war, or whatever it's going to be. It's rather the war, the United States versus, or Israel versus, whatever the Palestinian, the
Syrians.
no, the Palestinian, which is really Palestinians, by the way. It's interesting historically. It's really actually Philistines, but that's where it came from. But that's the question. Whose war is it? Is Menachem Begin's war, or was it what's his name? The PLO guy who's dead. Arafat. Was it Arafat's war? Was it Mubarak's war? What is it? Or is it Egypt's war? Is it Palestinian war? Whose is it? And when is known by that, then you know what kind of leader he is. Is he fighting for the people, or is he fighting for, or is he the ruler fighting to expand his domain? Okay. Yeah. So 21. Do I have time? Yeah. Okay. 21. So he says, "Vayishma Shmuel et divrei ha'am." So Shmuel listened to the words of the nation, and he spoke them into the ears of Hashem, which is always, again, interesting conversation here. So what does it mean by Yishma? So now Shmuel heard that they asked properly, that they didn't, it wasn't like he thought, that they were asking to replace him, and that the person would judge him according to the laws that they decided would be the law. Rather, they want to be judged according to the laws of Torah. And therefore, it also now was not a lessening of the kavod of Shmuel. Since they added, Sharotzim ish shelachem milchmotehem al pitachsise milchama, Shmuel, that they wanted this guy to fight the wars according to, along with the normal instruments of war, and that wasn't in the statutes of Shmuel. In other words, that wasn't part of his job description. Kihu lo haya bekocho rak hanhegat nesiyat, because his strength, the way he ruled was not through strength, but rather through miraculous manner. That was your question. If Hashem is doing all these miracles, why are the people running away from the miracle? Well, the simple answer to that is, God needed us to perform the miracle. Right? In other words, he needed the people to do something. Came to the crossing of the Red Sea. He said, "Let them go into the sea." And meanwhile, the sea is the sea. And so they say, "But we can't. There's water there." And he says, God said, "Just walk." Yeah, no. Not doing that. It's not a good situation. It's deep. We don't know where it drops. Nachshon ben Aminov says, if God said to go, I'm going to go. Midrash says he walked into the water. Now you have a different midrashim here, but the midrash says he walked in. So one midrash says he put his foot dip, the water split. Well, that's easy. Once you do that, okay, shkach, you were the first one to do it. Tremendous. The other midrash says no. He walked in. He was up to his nose, and suddenly he still kept walking, and finally what happened. Okay, so the question that you have on both midrashim is, how much effort do I have to make? How much effort? Do I have to do just one foot in? It splits? Okay, that's simple. I have to still make that first step. But that would be, if that was how it always was, so I wouldn't have to work that hard. But I'm guessing everybody was going more with the second midrash. But I have to go nearly killing myself, and then Shalem Hashem was going to do the miracle. I don't want to wait for that. I don't want to live that sort of a life where I'm basically going into my death. And I have to have a tremendous amount of emunah in that, and betachon that Hashem's going to take me out. Wow, that's a lot. I just want to get my car started up and go. I don't want to deal with all these things, right? And so that's why you would say, I'm not fit to live on such a high level. Who can? And by the way, who can? It's a great question. Who really can? I don't think that most people can live on that sort of level of that emunah bitachon. I really don't. That's what we work. Think about the people who want to get man. I know I'm going off the subject, but I want to really answer this question for you. Think about the story of man. According to the Chazal again, the Midrash says that for the tzaddikim who was learning Torah, whatever they're doing, the food came to their doorstep. For everybody else, they had to walk. Depending on their distance, they would have to walk. So, okay, it would seem to me that it would take one day for me to figure the system out. Okay. Oh, this guy's learning all day. It comes to him. Good. So now I'll do it. I'll do that. I'll learn all day. And so tomorrow I'll wake up and the man will be at my doorstep. Does it happen? Let me ask you, does it happen?
Not necessarily.
No, it doesn't happen. Guarantee it didn't happen. Guarantee the guy studied and he was waiting, and he shakalized, and he said, yeah, I'm learning Torah, blah, blah, blah. He walked out, it's not here.
But that's why he was waiting.
So now you're going to say, that's why, good. So he's going to say it wasn't there. So he says, okay, I'm going to improve, I'm doing everything I have to do, and it's not getting any closer, it's still the same distance. I still have to walk the same distance. Can't be it. Something's wrong here. Must be I got the system wrong. So, okay, it worked for him, it doesn't work for me. And that's how we all work.
It's the intent.
Call it what you want. Either it works or it doesn't work. The problem is, if you're going to argue, I don't have the intent, and only I know that, or you know that, and even I think I have the intent, but you don't. But God says, no, you could have been doing more. Well, I don't know. So I can't live at that level. And I convince myself of that. So now I go the other way. I have to walk. So now I have to walk. So if I have to walk, I can't learn as much. Think about how we all operate. You're living in a bubble here. Think about what you're doing. I have to work, because if I don't work, I don't get paid. If I don't get paid, I can't pay my rent. I don't get rent. Blah, blah, blah. So I have to work. And all the way through, you're saying, I know God should give me $1 million. God didn't give you $1 million. He gave you other things, okay? He didn't give you $1 million. And yet, you're still retired, and wow, the world didn't collapse. Okay. You had to change things. You had to change up things. But you didn't collapse. He retired. The world didn't collapse. You retired. The world didn't collapse. Why not? How can it be? How's it possible? Maybe I should retire. Maybe that's what God's telling me.
This place can't possibly run without me.
Yeah.
Everybody
thinks that. And we go crazy figuring it out. And yet God says, okay, do what you want. If that's what makes you get up in the morning, I guess you have to do that. You have to believe that. But all you have to do is really do what I told you, and you'd be all set. But you didn't believe me, so I gave it to you the hard way. By the way, the other question is, how much do I need? We all want the million, 2 million, 3. By the way, when you have a million, you want 3 million. Or double at least. And what if I get a million today? So how am I know I could use that million up really quick? A million goes nowhere today. So I need 2 million. I need 4 million. I need 6 million. Because if I start using that money, you know I have money. You're going to come to me and say, Rabbi, I need some money. You have 3 million, 10 million, 50 million, $640 million?
Is that what it's up to?
Yes. Whatever no, that was at one point. But you have $640 million and you got the tax-free because you're a rabbi? Okay. I'm talking to you. Okay. I'm talking to you, Mr. Government. Yeah, you're going to get some tax-free. Okay. But so you don't need all that money. You can't give that much money away to your family. Give what you want. Thinking it's a tzedakah you could do. My God, you were only working out under 100,000, and when you were 100, whatever. I don't want to give paychecks out. You're giving only a certain amount, and you were giving all that money. So look how much more you could give. Oh, and to me, you give it. Okay, you have all the people coming to you and bothering you. Again, is that what you want? Well, how much do you need? That's always the question.
Give it
You
a try.
don't need that.
No, you said you didn't build that. You didn't
No,
build
he
it.
also said, you don't need that.
Okay, fine.
He said that.
Okay. My point is that when we're looking at all these things, we have to understand what do we really need, what do we really want, what are we actually expecting from God, and we have to do the work, whatever that work is. But it doesn't have to be the work necessarily that we all understand. But I have to really believe and trust that I'm on that level. And the problem is, by the way they were going, they knew they were not. And miracles weren't, even the miracles that were happening, they didn't see them as miracles. When do I see it as a miracle? When it's abnormal. I don't see it when it's normal. It's normal for me to see a plane take off. It's normal. I don't think it's a miracle. It's normal for me to have a person to give a child, to give childbirth. It's not I don't see it today as a miracle. Okay, even for those who die in childbirth, Nebuch is very sad, but we don't see it as miraculous. Okay? Wow, how'd that happen? We don't do that. We understand the science behind it. We say, okay, this is what happened. And again, Nebuch, chas v'shalom, it happens the other way sometimes too. We don't see it as miraculous. Yet every single time that we breathe, it's a miracle. When we walk, when we do all these things, it's a miracle. Okay? It is miraculous. When that plane can stay up there and put the brakes on in mid-air, you felt, you know what I'm talking about? They put the brake, and you feel it, and you're thinking, are we falling?
Not tumbling out.
Right. Are we coming down? There's a big thing to slow down up here. Okay. But you feel it, and you're thinking, what are they braking against? What's the resistance? And I don't know how that works, and it really doesn't matter to me. But what I'm saying is that all these things are miraculous, that we can get from one side of the planet to the other in 24 hours. That's unbelievable.
I guess this whole philosophy that's being listed here
Yes.
is something that I've been struggling with for a very long time. Is that if you come from a culture where God has said, I chose you, and now we have this agreement, and I'll do this for you, you do this for me, and he backs it up with all kinds of incredible things like rescuing people out of slavery, et cetera,
Right.
et cetera. These are obvious things that, I really don't understand how people can turn their back on that and say, yeah, nice, great, thanks, don't want it anymore.
Because everything that was done while we agree it's miraculous, and because we see the story unfolding. We actually know the story as it unfolds, but we see it very quickly, within 20 minutes. They lived through it for 40 and 50 years.
But what about today?
People don't, again, what's miraculous today? What took like this? Nothing takes like this. It takes a long time, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70, 100 years. So that's very slow and it's done in a natural, quote unquote, natural manner. So we don't see God's hand in that. If I don't see God's hand in it, it's not miraculous. Again, I can see it as miraculous. I can see we have dead trees out here. Dead trees. There's nothing living on those trees. Yet within a few months, actually a few weeks, probably in that part of the year, in a few weeks, these are going to start to bud. I've seen some already start to bud, and they're going to be green, and they're going to have green grass if the snow will stop. And we'll have all these things. The sun will warm the planet up. Strange climate change will happen again, okay? And we'll be all set, okay? But that's miraculous. It's miraculous. There's nothing there. There's no reason for that tree to be there's no photosynthesis at this point that should be going on. There's no leaves. And they say, I remember learning that the way photosynthesis works is the leaves. Well, if there are no leaves, how is it photosynthesizing? Okay, so again, I leave that to this. I'm not really asking for a whole lecture here about that. But that would be the questions. Okay, and people don't see that. You have a drought in the winter, in the summertime. The grass is brown, totally brown, dead. It's dead as a doornail. What happens? A little rain comes down. God decides, okay, you want to mow lawns. Throws rain on us. One day of rain fills the reservoirs, flows them over for crying out loud, and next thing you know, you have green grass. It was dead. How did it grow? I wanted to stay dead. I didn't want to mow. Okay. And here you are. Now I have to mow again. Okay. But again, let's face it. That's how it works. So Mechayim Eitim, revival of the dead, is a constant miracle that's happening every single day, and we choose not to see it. But again, and we say it's nature. We say that's how it works, and we give scientific explanations as to how it's working. We will make up science for that. Okay. We have snow now. People say it's because of the glaciers melting, which is causing the cold weather, blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying, no, idiots, it's winter time. We've been saying for the longest time, in like a lion, out like a lamb. It's nothing new under the sun. Leave me alone. That saying outlives all of us. You don't like the weather? Let it just wait 5 minutes. No matter where I go, that's the expression. I've been from Canada all the way to here. It's same. I don't know in California. I heard in California they had snow. Oh, Hashem, yeah, got snow. And they said, all right, so it wasn't.
If only they'd have a really big earthquake and all our
Chas. But my point is that you have all these things going on, and science is trying to figure out how working backwards, forwards, whatever they're going to do, but it's all miraculous. That the rain comes in the right times, sometimes at the wrong times. But then the question is why? We had the flood from the Saint Joseph River. Why was there suddenly a flood? First of all, that's the first flood we've had in 100 years. I doubt it. Okay. But it's nonetheless. Who tells you live on the riverbank? You're taking a chance. Or the people in Boston who are living by the seacoast, and the water came up and destroyed their homes. Or the people in where's the other place? Is that the hurricanes always go through? Hurricane Valley, what is it called? Tornado Valley, whatever it's called. Hurricanes, tornadoes. New Orleans. You're living under the water, and you're expecting it not to come in. Okay, all the infrastructure we can blame it on us, and we should. We take the responsibility. But again, it's a matter of use your brains right now. It's a miracle that it's not constantly flooded.
So what you're saying is that
what I'm saying is that people don't appreciate miracles.
Don't really believe their own history.
No, what I'm saying is that people don't see it. It's because it happens after such a long period, we don't see it as miraculous. If I don't see it as miraculous, I don't see God as taking care of me. And I don't know if I can wait it out. So rather, set a system up. Why do we have savings accounts? In other words, if you really believe in God, I'm going to challenge you. Okay, you ready for the challenge? If you really believe in God, why do you have a savings account?
I don't.
Why do you have a house? Why do you have whatever you have? Why do you have savings? You have another house. Why do you do all that? If you really believe in God, that God's going to provide everything for you. So don't worry about this stuff. God will give it to you. Don't have any savings. Don't worry about retirement. Don't worry about insurance. Forget it. Done. And by the way, you no longer have to, 2018, you no longer have to be insured. Baruch Hashem. Okay? No longer have to be insured. So, save your money. Save your money. You don't have to worry about it, right? God's going to take, you're going to follow the Torah, you're going to do everything you're supposed to do, you're good with God, you're good with man. Good. You give your tzedakah, boom, 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 whatever suck you have, you're throwing some money out there. You're keeping Shabbat, you're keeping kosher, you're doing all that. You follow the law, you get the law, you learn the law. You learn Chovos Levavos. You learn how to love Hashem. You love all. You do it, and you live the life according to what you're saying. You should have nothing to worry about if you really believe in God. But it's a one little shemetz in your mind. Maybe it's not going to work. Oh, so now you're going to say that's why it didn't work, right? So you're going to say because it didn't work.
No, I was going to say, you say, I wouldn't expect anything to happen if you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. You're doing it for the love of Hashem. You're not doing it because you're expecting Him to,
That's
drive that Cadillac
great.
up to your
So
front door.
if you really could believe that, we'll have to stop here, then you would not have to do all the stuff you did. The point is that people don't really believe that. And that's why we have to go through all these, getting insurances, whatever we're going to be doing. That's what we have to work. We have to do all these things because we're saying, okay, Hashem, you said, on the 6 days, work shall be done. On the 7th, you can rest. So we have to work. So you told us we have to work. So if we have to work, we have to work. But what does work mean? That's also a question. Okay, and what should the ikar, what should the main thing of being working, namely to love Hashem and so on? So, okay, fine. But I still have to bring my family up to still do this. God, I'm really busy. It's the best thing, the best song of the 70s that illustrated that was Couldn't Be Just Like You, Dad. Couldn't Be Just Like You from Cats in the Cradle. There you go. That when I get a chance, I'm going to call you Dad. Until then, I have no time. Okay. But, or the other way around. So, that's what you have to look at.